Hello everyone, it's Hannelore, and today I'm doing a quick video on how I trim a typical panel to be the dimensions called out for in a pattern and make sure that it's perfectly centered and exactly square. So this panel measures on this panel. I am going to cut off the wheat on the top and the bottom, and I really just want everything inside this gold boundary, and I want my seam to be in this black area because I'm going to put a black border around it, and then it'll be set to be the center of my bigger fall quilt. If you are doing a Jason Yenter quilt, such as like the blue or red dragon quilt or the Cosmos quilt, you would have a big panel similar to this in the center of your big quilt, and the instructions are to trim it to a specific size, and you want to make sure you get that panel nice and centered and the correct size. So here's how I go about doing that. Let's say in this panel, the instructions in the quilt are the final measurements of this panel are 23.5 inches wide by 37 inches long. So here's what I would do. Okay. All right, so we are going to trim. Let's start trimming the length to size first. So what we want to do is make sure that we have this panel nice and centered. So to start with, we're going to find the corners and line up the corners of each side. So I'm going to fold this in half, wrong sides together. Okay. And this is the corner. This is the corner that I want to match with this corner. You can see it on the wrong side. Put your pin through, and yep, corners line up. So I am going to make sure that my pin is nice and straight, because if it goes straight through and doesn't point down or to a side or up, then I know that point is perfectly lined up. And I'm going to put a pin, I'm going to put it right to the outside here. Alright, so that's going to hold that. So I can take this pin out now because I know that fabric isn't going to move. Alright, so now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to put a pin in the corner and find the corresponding corner on the other end. Put a pin in that. And then wiggle the two fabrics till that pin is straight. It doesn't look up, doesn't look down, doesn't look right, doesn't look left. It's going straight through. And then I'm going to take that out and put the pin through this part of the fabric, and I know that's not going to move. So now if I lay this down, I can flip this back, and I'm going to look and see visually, does this line, is that on top of the line on the other side? And you can see on the back side of the fabric that if I fold this right there and there, that lines up. And even in the middle, see, that lines up. So I know I have the top and the bottom here perfectly lined up. So I'm going to turn it. I'm going to roll this back. My table here serves as a cutting table and an ironing table. It's a two-parter. Okay, so we lined up the quilt, so this bottom edge that we want to make sure we center is exactly in the right place. So we put pins in the corners, matching the corners, matching that line, because you can see in the back, see those lines line up perfectly. And now our pattern measurement from top to bottom is 37 inches, so we're going to divide that in half, which 37 divided in half, 37 divide by 2 is 18.5 inches. So we're going to measure down here 18.5 inches. So 18 and a half. Okay, so my ruler is at the 18.5 inch mark right on that curve, and I'm going to make sure, just like if you were cutting fabric, that that line, the skinniest line on your ruler, is right there on the fabric, not off it, but right, the line is on the very tip of the fabric. Then take your, take your fabric marking pencil and just put a mark there. And then we're going to do the same thing on this top side. We're going to lay this down, 20, 19, 18 and a half. And I'm going to make sure again that that fold line, the edge of the fold line, is underneath one of the skinny lines on my ruler. So the line is on the fabric, on the very edge of the fabric. Okay, so I can't move my camera, sorry. So on my ruler, you're going to look down 18.5, put that mark right on the edge of your fabric, and then come back here and put your line. Okay, so now I have a line from here to here. And because my pins are on this side, I'm not going to put my ruler on that side. I'm going to put my ruler on this side. And I'm going to put the edge of that ruler right on top of that line. Okay? Not next to it. Right on the very top of it. Because that line is your cutting line. Okay, so there we go. And take your ruler, make your cutter. And yes, I'm a lefty, so if you're doing this, flip your panel around. And there we go. Okay. So again, measure, I guess we could have measured before, but there we go. 18.5 inches. All right. So take your pins out. Put your stuff away. Let's open this baby up. I got a little, but you can see, so I'm going to scooch this together a little in the middle so it'll fit on my board a little better. But you can see, okay, there we go. Bottom edge, perfect across, and it's the same width, same distance as that top edge. Okay, so we got the top and the bottom done, and if I did my division right and we cut at 18.5, then this baby, this is what happens when your cutting surface is also your pressing surface, right? 5/36, and back this baby up a little. We are at 37 inches on the nose. Okay, so there we did one side. We're going to do the same thing to the other side, right? So I'm sorry, wrong sides together. I'm sorry. I stepped away a bit. Starting this, I should have done it all in one fell swoop. Okay, so here we are on the right side, and then you can see the corner on the back on the wrong side of the other side. Put it in so you've got your corners. Squiggle them around so that pin is perfectly straight. It's not pointing up, it's not pointing down. It is right where it should be. So this time, well, let's just pin it right there. We'll see if that works. Okay, so we did this side. Now we gotta do this side. Same thing. I'm gonna put a pin in here. I'm going to find the corner right there. I'm going to put a pin in there. I'm going to match it. Right, we're going to wiggle this around so that pin is nice and straight. There we go. Right, I'm going to pin inside here. Let's make sure that that works. Okay, so actually your pins should both be on the same side. So hold that fabric. Let's make sure we get our points again. I put the pin on the wrong side. So your pins are on the top. Okay, so that pin is straight up and down. It's not wiggling from one side to the next. So I know that that is right. So I'm going to lay this down. And my surface isn't big enough to lay the whole thing flat, but that's okay. All right. So I'm going to do this. Now if you want to hit it with a little iron, press that a little flat, you can do that. But I think we're going to be good here. So the pattern says for this piece, side to side, it's supposed to be 23.5. So 23.5 divided by 2 is 11 3/4. So we're going to take our ruler, and at one end at a time, you're going to lay, so 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 3/4. So I'm going to lay that right on that fold line. And the same thing over here. I'm going to put that ruler right on that fold line. So 11 3/4 here, 11 3/4 here. Grab my pencil, draw a line. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing in the middle because this is a long piece. So I'm going to make sure. So again, I'm going to line it up again, 11 3/4, 11 3/4. Make sure your fold is in the right place. Again, you can press it a little bit just to flatten out that fold, but make sure 11 1/4, 11 1/2, 11 3/4, 11, 11 1/2, 11 3/4. There's my line. Okay, so there's my line on this side. Now, it's going to be a little awkward. I'm not going to pick this up, but I'm going to put the edge of my ruler right on that line. So the edge, I really just barely can't see that line because that line is right under that ruler, okay? And then I'm going to trim. I know I'm only trimming part of it. I don't want to pick it up and then move it, right? So put your blade out, push against your ruler. This may not be the safest way to do it, but again, this is my way, okay? It's not the best way, certainly not the only way, but this is my way and this works for me. So I must have a nick in my blade. I do. Okay, all right, now back here one more time. I'm going to measure up here. So I'm going to measure down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and a half, 11 and 3/4. 11 and a half, 11 and 3/4. I'm going to put a line there and put my pen away. Okay, I'm going to make sure this is nice and flat. I feel no wrinkles underneath. This is still lined up perfectly. So I'm going to put my ruler again on the line. I can barely see that line. I did a skinny line so that I am going to cut right on that line. All right. And that should line up. Okay, aim for my ruler, and there we go. Tug it a little. I gotta get a new blade. Alright, one more. Okay. And one more. Alright. So, trim that off. So we said 23 and a half inches wide. So let's put this down. There's my top. And we are 23 and a half inches wide. Okay, so that's good. So let's see, how did we do? So, I mean, that looks pretty darn tootin' good. Now, I like doing it this way because sometimes you get some variations in your panel, you know, the printing of the panel. But that's it. That's how I trim a panel, make it square, and to the dimensions that a pattern calls for. Alright, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If there's anything else you'd like to see, let me know. I'm happy to help. Thank you.